Hey, what's up, guys? So I wanted to make this video talking about a concept called Phasic Dieting. So this is something that I've learned from like people like Mike Israetel in the fitness industry. Basically, whole concept behind it and idea is okay. So how do we diet? How do we manipulate our nutrition for different phases, for different training goals? For example, let's say you're cutting, you're at maintenance, or you are um, bulking. Like, what is the best way to diet, and how do we align our training with our nutrition so that they have best work, in synergy, and you can get the best gains as a result of it. So, I want to talk first about cutting. So, a lot of people, when they go on a cut, first off, so the big goal of the cut. So first off, you're going to be in caloric deficit, right? So you're going to be hypocaloric, eating less calories than you burn in order to lose body fat. That's the definition of a caloric deficit. So if we are going to be, so the goal of a cut is to lose body fat while maintaining lean tissue, because we don't want to lose that hard, that size that we would gain over our bulks or maintenance phase, because that takes a lot of effort to build, right? So a lot of people will try to do like a strength program in their hypertrophy, in their cuts, and I'm going to just say very fast why that's a flawed thought process. So strength is a very good indicator of how well you are going to be retaining your size and muscle mass that you have built. Basically, if you're pushing the same loads, more or less, you're going to basically more or less be maintaining your size, right? So that's good. However, we run into a problem when we go into reps that are 6 reps and below, in that they become less taxing on your muscular system and more neurally demanding, right? So there are two parts of force output of your muscle. So it's going to be your neurons and your muscle fibers. So how they correlate is the more muscle that you have, the more motor neurons innervate that muscle. So when you have more muscle mass, you have more potential for motor motor unit recruitment with those neurons, which basically means that you'll be able to have more force output, more force production. That's why we say a bigger muscle has more potential to be a stronger muscle, because of that fact. There are going to be more neurons innervating that. Now, when you are going into a strength type of programming, you're not going to be taxing your muscular system as much. You're going to be more doing your nervous system, since that's just how strength is. It's a big neural thing. That's a problem because we want our muscular system to have as much of a stimulus as possible to stay. Because when we are in a caloric deficit, we need to understand something. Muscle mass is extremely energetically expensive. It's not easy for your body to just like maintain. Like, it eats up like a lot of oxygen. It's the most metabolically expensive tissue besides our brain, and our body. It takes up a lot of energy. So the best way to align to, like, when you are cutting, how you should train, you should have a hypertrophy mesocycle where you're training mostly in that 7 to 15 rep range. Now your maximum recoverable volumes may be slightly altered by like 2 to 3 sets down, like basically at most for most people. So just take that into account. That's just because you're in a hypocaloric state, you're not going to be able to recover as well. It's really important to make sure that you are training in that higher rep range, so that you can tell your muscular system, hey, we have a reason to stay. We are working out our muscular system, giving that signal to our body that, hey, we need this still around to survive. So that's basically how you should, if you're cutting, that's how you should train. You should be in hypertrophy mesocycle. And then if you are going to be bulking, I will also recommend that the majority of your bulk be spent in a hypertrophy mesocycle, for the same reasons as a cut. When we are in a hypercaloric state, you're in a caloric surplus, we are in the best possible scenario for our body to add more tissue. And that's going to be in the form of fat, in the form of muscle mass, among other things, like extracellular water fluid, intracellular water, whatever, food volume. But when we are bulking, we are in that best state to actually build muscle. Our body wants to build muscle, wants to have more tissue based on the nature of our caloric state. So if you are doing a bulk, I would recommend spending the majority of it in a hypertrophy mesocycle, like spend 3 to 4 months in one. After that, if you want to go into a strength phase, that's fine, but I would be aware that you're probably going to put on a little bit more fat, just because you're not going to have as much of those new nutrients going to the muscular system, because you will be increasing the demands of the nervous system. Now, even though the nervous system does have a decent energy requirement, neurons are very metabolically active. It's still better, in your best interest, to align your bulking cycles with the hypertrophy. And so then, how should we diet if we are trying to build strength or peak? So I am going to recommend that this is when maintenance is the best. And the reason why is because it's really important. Your body strength is going to be best developed under a very, very consistent state of like where your body is in. Because when you're gaining weight, let's say your waistline is getting a little bit bigger or whatever, you're adding more tissue, you're going to have your leverages going to be altered. You're going to have to your body's going to have to constantly be adjusting. Strength is primarily and first and foremost a skill. You can get very, very strong at not a very high body weight. There are elite powerlifters everywhere that support this phenomenon. So I would recommend staying in maintenance, because you're going to be able to, one, you're going to be supporting your training, you're going to be supporting your recovery. Recovery is still going to be good as long as you are keeping your training volume correct. You're managing your sleep, your stress levels proactively, etc. Stuff like that. So you don't really have a big issue in terms of recovery in that way, as long as all those checkmarks are being in place. You have enough fuel in the form of calories to support your recovery. And when we are peaking, especially, it's really important to get used to how our body works, so then we can have those motor pathways down where you don't even have to think about anything. It's just you just squat, you just bench, and you just deadlift, and it's basically pretty automatic. So in summary, for hypertrophy phases should align with your cuts and with your bulks, and then for your strength and peaking phases where you're trying to maximize that force production that you have with the muscle that you've already built, you should be in a maintenance phase. So thanks for watching. I just want to make this video really fast because it's a question that I get all the time. I hope this helped you out. But if you guys have any questions, just ask them in the comments below. I'll get to them if there's any good ones. And make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. See you later, guys.